Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Randazzo, and I am joined by my two slightly medicated co-hosts. To my right, it is the one and only Uncle Sam.
Hello.
How's your mouth?
Good.
I know you were a little worse for the wear after the show on Monday,
Yeah, I was fucking decimated when I went home.
so I'm apologizing to you in advance right now because you're probably going to be in pain today. Hopefully it doesn't get as heated.
You didn't get my shit, did you?
What shit?
You were supposed to bring it?
I forgot.
Yeah, I figured it.
My bad. I'll bring
Thank
it
you.
tomorrow. And to my left, it is none other than our very own Mr. Solo, Mike Palazzolo.
Blessed.
And behind the computer, absolutely gobbling his own goo gun, it is Bruce, the tugboat Venditti.
My own goo gun.
Your own
How you
goo
doing?
gun. Shooting goo, Bruce. Shooting goo. Welcome to our first edition of the Fantasy Frenzy for this year. We have a ton of fantasy news for you guys today. This is important. What's more important is that you guys ask us your fantasy questions in the chat. That is why we are here. We are here to answer every single fantasy question you guys have for us. And then we're going to give you some insight of our own.
Look at us like a committee.
Yeah.
We're a committee, so we'll come to some sort of consensus for you on a lineup question. You just got to ask us the lineup question.
More likely than not, if you do ask us, Uncle Sam won't agree with me and Zolo because Uncle Sam's the most washed up, has been worst fantasy football player in the world. He scored a nice 83 points this week
It was not a...
in an IDP league. The bottom of the standings.
Can he read those? Can you read the screen?
Can you read from there? Can you see that?
I tried making it a little bigger for you.
Well, I can read it.
Okay,
Yeah?
he can
All right.
read it. He can
All
read
right.
it. So don't listen to Uncle Sam. But other than that,
Don't listen to me.
we have what it was me and you in the championship game last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, it was 112 points.
Only because Tank Dell got hurt. That's all I gotta say. All I
Bruce,
gotta say. I
Bruce.
was sweeping both of you if Tank Dell didn't.
I could say that if Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs actually
I lost
did
to
shit
you
in the
by
back
like a
half, you
point.
would've won.
Listen to me.
Life comes at you fast.
Listen, you're not worthy. Do you understand?
worthy.
You have too
Top
much goo
three.
to be worthy.
Top 3.
Anyways, how's everybody's week going so far? How's your week going?
Great.
Yeah, Zolo, how's your week?
Week is good. I just got asked if we're covering Shannon Sharp going live while having sex.
I was gonna bring that in
Whoa.
during the news. Yeah, I was gonna bring that in. Your instant thoughts.
I haven't seen it. Someone just sent it to me and asked if we're going to talk about it.
I saw it. Unfortunately, the only things that it was more of a what you heard rather than what you saw.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what happened?
No.
Shannon Sharp accidentally went on Instagram Live while he was fornicating earlier, and you could hear the entire interaction via Instagram Live. You couldn't really see anything. The phone actually fell off of the bed whilst it was going on, and then you just got to hear essentially Shannon Sharp's vinegar strokes for about 3 minutes before he realized he was on Instagram Live. Not a good look. I would have to say, not a good look.
Where is he now? He's not at ESPN, is he? Is he at
No,
Fox still?
I think he's gone. I think he just
gone
does
in
his own
general.
podcast.
Yeah, he has
His
that
own
pod.
show.
Yeah, he's got his own show.
I wouldn't know.
Well, he's about to get that taken away.
If you're gonna have your own, if you're gonna essentially leak a sex tape, at least make it a full, like do the damn thing. Pull a Kim Kardashian, make it worldwide news. Like if everybody got to see Shannon Sharp's dong,
Like the John Jones video.
yeah, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome. Like that'd be a talking point. But just to hear some, moaning and whatever for a minute, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We have a Monday night game to discuss. We also have a Thursday night game to discuss. We're going to talk about the Thursday night game when we get into Fantasy Frenzy. So we'll pick that game. We'll discuss it. Couple props that I like from that game. All that will be when we get into fantasy talk for Bills Dolphins. But first, we need to discuss the Monday night game. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to start my prop bet Mageddon, which is Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown and double it every week. Because moments before the game, Christian McCaffrey was out. It was about a half hour before the game. They officially ruled him out. Jordan Mason started, and Jordan Mason was an absolute animal. But
Can I butt in here for 1 minute?
absolutely,
sure can.
you can.
Okay. There was 23 years ago on 9/11. I was getting ready for work, and me and your aunt were just bullshitting. So I had a TV on. And, the first tower had just got hit. And then I'm watching TV, and I watched the second tower get hit on TV live. What was going on? I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And then kind of the weirdest day I ever had, dude. Actually, the weirdest couple of days. I went to work. There wasn't a fucking plane in the sky. And I remember the attack helicopters going from Willow Run Airport, and they were flying all over the fucking place. And that was a long time ago. You guys were fucking kids at the time, probably.
I could appreciate it because I ate at the top of Windows of the World, which was the restaurant on top of the North Tower.
Okay.
I ate there in October of 2000, October 11th, 2000.
Yeah. And
So-
it's been gone for 23 years.
Never forget.
And everybody's forgotten about it because everybody that's in this country is a cunt now.
I didn't forget. I was saving it for the
Well,
end. But
I'm
we'll
just saying
go
I
there.
wanted to celebrate those who gave up their lives for other people. The firemen in the police department that ran to that fucking scene in a flat out run trying to save people. And everybody in this country sucks because everybody forgot about it. Y'all need to fucking wake up.
Adding to
All I'm
what
gonna say.
adding to what he said real quick about how the firefighters and police officers, I don't want to get out too far off the rails because this is a football podcast, but I seem to be really well versed in this subject. I don't know how it happened. And something that's underrated from that day, an underrated storyline, if you were in the South Tower, it was hit, we have to get the times, but it was hit at I think 8:59 or 9:03 or something like that. I'm right on one of those two accounts.
So the first one was 8:14.
8:46. The first one was 8:46.
8:46.
The South Tower was 8:59 or 9:02, 9:03, somewhere in there.
I'm going. Hold on.
The gist is, Sam's going to get the times. The gist is the South Tower was hit and fell within
9:03.
9:03. I had it. So it fell less than an hour later. So if you were in the South Tower, you were dead if you were above where the plane hit. And if you were a firefighter going in, like we watch scenes, Uncle Sam, we watch scenes from that morning and you see people running and scrambling. Doesn't it look like that was like an all-day affair? Doesn't it look like that was happening all
wanna
day?
hear something really cool, dude? You know what I was watching? Univision.
Spanish.
Yeah.
And
You
how
know
are they
why?
covering it?
You know why? There's people jumping out of the fucking building and hitting the ground. They didn't show that shit here.
You can see it in the videos now. I mean,
Bud, they didn't
The-
show that shit here.
the gist
Univision
is-
showed
probably
everything.
live.
The gist is credit to it's sad. The firefighters and the
Yeah.
police officers and first responders, you had less than an hour if you were in the South Tower. And they went in there not knowing what was going on, not knowing what they were up against. Again, it looks like it took all day. Everything was done and over in 2.5 hours. And on top of that, the first responders, like at all the hospitals in Manhattan, were sitting and waiting at, when there's like an awning for emergency rooms, all the doctors were sitting and waiting for people to come in, all like after the initial wave of people, from the whole afternoon on. There weren't many survivors that were pulled out of rubble. So they were sitting and waiting and no one ever came because that's how devastating it was. But I haven't forgotten, but there are people that have.
Everybody's forgotten.
I didn't forget.
No,
Everybody in this
Nobody
country
forgot.
forgot.
I haven't
Nobody
forgotten.
forgot.
I have not
Everybody's
forgotten.
forgotten. Everybody in this country's forgot.
Well, I was on a walk
didn't
this
forget.
morning
Anyway.
before I went to work, and there was a very nice patriot walking down Lakeshore with the American flag on a pole today, just to let everybody know, just to remember. There are still some patriots left in this country, so shout out to
Not
them.
many.
You know what? Shout out to you. shout out to you for calling it out right at the beginning of the show.
Shout out to Uncle Sam.
Shout out to
It's the first thing I wanted to talk about because I know how people are, and today's generation, it's been forgotten for a decade. It's been forgotten for a decade because nobody's got any fucking common sense anymore. Go ahead.
Amen. Well, I don't really know how to transition out of that to Monday.
It's not going to be easy. It's
not gonna be nice.
It's going to take a fisting. Hello.
Not going to be good. Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason broke some news in his post-game presser where he said he knew he was going to be the starting running back on Friday. Couple things here. One, how does that happen, right?
How full of shit is Kyle Shanahan?
Correct. Like, you want to know how many people bet that game based on Christian McCaffrey? Granted, they still probably won, but still.
Right.
To hold that piece of news from fantasy players, from bettors, everybody, through the entire weekend.
Until game time?
Up until game time, that's
bullshit.
Bush League. That's Bush League.
No, it's bullshit.
It's nothing new.
The Christian McCaffrey thing, they're saying that he may not play now in week 2. I'm not good with this. I feel like San Francisco covered up.
If they're not playing him, they need to fucking put it on. Yeah, of course.
They covered up the extent of that injury through training camp and left everybody sitting there wondering, and nobody thought anything of it. And now here we go. They take half hour before week 1, he's out. Now week 2, we're getting nothing but vague responses. Do you think McCaffrey's playing this week?
No, they're not going to rush him back.
Hey, did you know they ran out fucking Kyle Shanahan's father got ran out of the league for the same type of thing?
Shady shit.
No, just because
shit.
the shit with RG3 because he left him in injured, and they thought that his injury got worse. That was impossible, but it got worse, and he got hurt, and then they fucking ridiculed this guy for having him in there, and then they decided to change out midway through. So it is what it is, dude.
Real quick, there's we're here to talk fantasy. To answer your question, no, I don't think he plays this week. They don't have to play him. They're going against a subpar run defense, in my opinion, in Minnesota, and they can just Mason ran all over a really good one in the Jets defense.
Correct.
So they can rest him, but there's precedent for this, for forging an injury report, and Mason was not necessarily called out, but they said he said in the post-game interview, they told me Friday that I was going to be playing.
Correct.
And I think that's a major red flag, and I think the 49ers could get some shit for this. I think they had him on the injury report, so that's why he had missed camp. But this could be a long injury. We don't know.
Right.
It could be.
We have no clarity whatsoever.
Because they haven't said the grade of it, but Achilles tendonitis it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy to just come back
Especially as Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Especially as somebody who's going to be as active.
And I think he should be held accountable for it.
I'm sure they will.
No, they won't.
Now, to bring Fantasy Frenzy back into this, is Jordan Mason a must play going forward if he's the starting guy?
Yeah, RB2 with RB1 upside.
100%.
Yeah.
You have to.
If you have him, you're starting him just because of where he is. Like that. Like, again, it doesn't matter. You guys will always disagree with me. Love Christian McCaffrey. He's the best running back in the league, but it doesn't matter who plays running back in that system. He's the best running back in the league because he's in that system. I thought that proved it.
You know what I found interesting? He got more carries in that game than Christian McCaffrey did in any game last year.
Dude, he got
28 carries in that game.
There's also a game plan element to it. Like, I'm sure that wasn't initially the game plan, but then when that started working and they couldn't stop, like when you're gashing him for 9 yards a carry, I don't know what his yards per carry. What was it?
5.3 yards per carry.
I mean, that you can't go away from that.
No.
He didn't slow down. He wasn't injured. He fell forward every time. I'm sure that changed why the volume was so high, but regardless, the volume was so high.
This game answered some things for me. One, 49ers defense is still really good. Still really, really good. Two, the Jets defense scares me a little bit.
They weren't the same Jet defense that they were putting out there last year.
Correct. They did not look crisp. They did not look prepared.
I don't know, man. They just listen. Quentin Williams is dominant defensive tackle.
Oh yeah,
Dominant. And they could not get home.
they couldn't get.
And you know what?
for me and Vic.
Kudos to the San Francisco offensive line. They are a top 5 line in this league.
They looked really
They
good.
are no bullshit because they kept off some really good defensive players and they kept a clean pocket for Purdy to just do his little dink and dunk shit. That was nice. That was a nice game for him.
So again, I want to stay away from obvious ones, right? Like obviously, if you have Deebo Samuel and if you have Deebo
I think it was
Samuel,
a
if you
little
have Garrett
rusty.
Wilson, you're going to be playing those guys.
Right.
But there's one name that I want to talk about from this game and see if you guys have any faith in him.
Yeah, I'll say it. It's Alan Lazard.
It's Alan Lazard.
No.
Alan Lazard is a really it's a favorite weapon of Rodgers.
One of the plays was a broken play and the other was garbage time.
He's only rostered in 32% of leagues.
I'm not reading
Yep.
too much into it. It was a broken
By the
Aaron
way, I
Rodgers.
drafted him.
You know, he capitalized on the defense going off sides, and then the other one was a garbage time touchdown.
Do you think they look better this week coming here?
Do I think the
The
Jets?
Jets. You
Yeah,
think the Jets
I think
rebound?
there's nowhere to go. First things first, they were playing a good team on the road. I'm the only one that picked them.
I picked them.
I picked them.
You were the only one that picked the 49ers.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm
Yeah.
the only one that picked the 49ers. They're playing a good team on the road.
They have Tennessee.
I'm not crazy worried about the Jets yet. I'm not high on the Jets like a lot of people, but I'm also not crazy worried about the Jets. So I think there's nowhere to go but up. And I told you guys before the show Monday.
I thought the play calling, some of them play callings were pretty questionable because if you remember the second possession they had, that's when they put together that good drive and they were running the shit out of Brees Hall and they scored the touchdown.
Yeah.
And they went up. And I think
got away
outside of that, then you got a 3 and out. You had a 3 and out to start the game. Then you had like 2 3 and outs. It was just so inconsistent. And once you fall behind a team like San Francisco, you're in fucking trouble.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because Brock Purdy did exactly what he had to do to win that game.
Right.
Put it away.
Oh, the running game. You got a fucking backup running back who come in there and just fucking ass pounded them.
Correct.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Purdy as a fantasy quarterback going forward?
Again, I'm not reading too far into any. I'm not reading. There's only so much I'm reading into for week 1 because I was having this conversation with someone earlier today. Week 1 is not. There's no trends. You can't spot trends. You have one. The data is too minimal, right? Brock Purdy. Top 12, top 14. If you're in I'm in a 2 quarterback league. I'm in 2 of them. So like, of course, he's a very good play. But I mean, if I'm in a 12 team league or like us, a 14 team league, I'm probably not starting him over certain guys right now. I wouldn't worry long term though because he's Brock Purdy. He was what did he finish his last year? 5 or 6 or something like that.
He's top 7, yeah.
I'm just not reading into anything right now because there's no trends yet. There's certain like injuries, and I want to get into some injuries. There's injuries we can read into, but I'm not reading into the week 1 trends. I wouldn't fret too hard about a lot of guys.
Okay. Before we go into the games from this week, we have 2 questions in the chat that I want to address. First and foremost, Drake London. You're big on Drake London. He had 2.5 fantasy points this week. He is rostered in 97% of leagues. You drafted him in our league 23rd overall.
Yes.
Are you sounding the panic button yet on Drake London?
I'm not sounding the panic button on Drake London, but you know who I am sounding the panic button on?
Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins.
So am I.
Kirk Cousins. Again, another conversation I had. Shout out to George if you're watching this. He's in the chat. So I just had this conversation 15 minutes ago with George. Someone made a compilation 6 minutes long of all of Kirk Cousins' dropbacks. And doctors are saying he's not putting proper pressure on his Achilles, and therefore that is a major problem because if he can't plant, he can't drive through the ball. And I think Kirk Cousins is someone to watch, which affects everyone. It affects Kyle Pitts. It affects Bijan. It, of course, affects Drake London all across the board. So I'm not worried about Drake London because he had a productive year last year with poor quarterback play. I am worried about Kirk Cousins at the moment. I need to see more. Again, it's 1 game's worth of data. He could come back and say, oh, maybe I'm not scared to plant and drive the ball. But right now, just looking at that video that I saw, I'm a little worried about Drake London because of Kirk Cousins.
This is what worries me about Drake London going forward. it doesn't really get easier right now for Atlanta. You got Philadelphia this week. You've got Kansas City the week after. You have a New Orleans team that lit the world on fire this week. And then you have Tampa, who looked pretty stout. Drake London worries me a little bit because the Atlanta Falcons worry me.
Trying to tell me they can lose their next 5 games, basically.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know if
I don't know about that
all 5.
because they're better than they were last year. And again, Drake London is, if he's as good as we think he is, he's supposed to enter that Amon-Ra echelon. That who else? Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams echelon, where it doesn't matter who's throwing you the ball.
Bona fide receiver.
Right.
one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's covering you or who's throwing you the ball. If you get your target share and you make a play, it doesn't matter. So I wouldn't worry about him against an Eagles defense that got shredded last week. Like I think it's going to come down to Kirk Cousins, but eventually they might have to pull the plug on Kirk Cousins, which is good news for you because Michael Penix would come in.
Michael Penix should have won the Heisman last year.
Real quick, a hypothetical, and I don't want to get stuck on this forever. Say they go 0-3, which I think could be likely. Are we?
We got to see what happens. Do you see what happens after this week? If they could come back and beat Philadelphia this week,
Then
all
all
this talk
all
is fucking
forgotten.
nil.
But if they get blown out by Philadelphia and blown out by Kansas City and go to week 4 against New Orleans and don't look good, we're having a conversation.
Listen, they just better be ready to tackle fucking Saquon Barkley. That's all they need to fucking.
Kirk Cousins starts slow too.
He does.
He's historically started slow and then has evolved into MVP
Ah,
campaign.
shit.
Speaking of starting slow, we have another question from the chat. Joe Burrow, bust or bounce back?
He always starts slow.
This has garnered some
Nope.
attention.
I was hoping we'd get this one.
We're getting it. Joe Burrow did not have a very nice week last week against the New England Patriots. He scored 9 points. He's quarterback
So did Aaron
25 right now. He's quarterback 25. And going forward, they play Kansas City this week, followed by Washington, Carolina, and Baltimore.
You'll
guys'
see. You'll
thoughts?
see a different Joe Burrow this week.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Again, you can't go by 1 week because 1 week is nowhere near enough data. But same drill. The doctors posted a bunch of videos of Joe Burrow. Did you see it?
The wrist.
He's shaking his wrist every time he sits down on the bench as if something isn't quite right with the wrist. Something to keep an eye on. I love Joe Burrow. I've always been higher on Joe Burrow than a lot of people around here. I think when he was at his best 2 years ago, the only quarterback I would have taken over him is Mahomes, probably.
Agree.
I don't think he's that Joe Burrow right now, and I certainly won't think he's that Joe Burrow if the wrist is still damaged.
This is my thoughts on Joe Burrow. And if you own Joe Burrow, this is how you should go about it going forward. This week against Kansas City, I don't think you're going to get anything out of him that you love. I would look to start somebody different this week against Kansas City. That week 3-4 between Washington and Carolina, hopefully that's when he comes on. Usually the first 3 or 4 games for Burrow are slow. Luckily, he plays Washington and Carolina in weeks 3 and 4. I think he falls right back into where he is. I think it's a slow start. Maybe the wrist isn't great. Hopefully they get it figured out. But by week 3 and 4, I think he will absolutely be right back into Joe Burrow form, and you won't have anything to worry about going forward, in my opinion.
I don't buy the slow start narrative. If he's healthy, he's going to be fine, especially when he's got both of his receivers to throw to. I'm not worried about that at all. But is he healthy?
He would start slow.
He would, but I think he'll be fine. I wouldn't read into that. There's not enough data to
wouldn't
say
read
that this
into
is a
it,
slow start.
Bust of the year.
Another one. Is Jameson Williams about to take over the team and make St. Brown a number 2?
No.
Jameson Williams said in the offseason that he was going to be the number 1 receiver in football when he finished this year. If week 1 is any indicator, he looked really, really, really good.
It's easy to do when you got safeties and corners and linebackers.
22.5 fantasy
Double
points in week
covering
1.
you every fucking play.
Currently wide receiver 6.
Yeah.
Do I think Jameson Williams is going to dethrone Amon-Ra St. Brown for the number 1 spot? No, I don't. Do I think there's a reality where you could have Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown both finish the year as top 10 receivers?
Possible.
I do.
If T. Higgins and Jamar Chase can do it,
Jamison Williams and
Jameson
Amon-Ra
Williams
St.
and
Brown
Amon-
can do it.
They can do it.
So, do I think Jamison Williams has upside? And if you can get him, get him. He's rostered in 80% of leagues right now. Don't really know how that happened, but if you can get him, get him. If you can trade for him, if you could trade, like I just saw Olave pop up in there. Right now, I'm trading Chris Olave for Jamison Williams.
It's my worry about JMO as someone who's like literally gotten on their knees for JMO before. My worry about JMO is you and I are going to be on the same page here. It's target share, because Sam Laporta is receiver 2. I think that it was just a fluke that he was the only thing that was working.
Wide open.
He was wide open.
wide open.
He was the only thing that was working. That's not going to be like that all year. Ben Johnson has never called 2 bad games in a row.
I will say this: that San Francisco or the defense for the Rams, Sean McVay had a good fucking thing going.
Great game plan.
He actually had a great game plan
Great game
against
plan.
them.
Do you think there's any possibility that because teams are respecting Sam Laporta at such a high level now, and honestly, Amon-Ra too, it's going to open up the floodgates?
Yeah.
You can't. It's hard to respect 2 guys, but hypothetically, JMO should reap the benefits if your defensive game plan is we're gonna stop Laporta and St. Brown, which you can't stop. You could probably stop Laporta. You can't stop St. Brown.
No.
If that's your game plan, then yeah, that should open everything up for JMO. I just think that it'll be hard for him to crack where people think he's gonna crack it right now, just because of the target share. That's not going to stay. Again, it's 1 week's worth of data. If I see him go off this week against Tampa, and he scored against Tampa last year, if I remember correctly. He had a bomb against Tampa that kind of changed everything in the second half. Something to keep an eye on, certainly. But right now, I'm just not reading too much into it. But I could see JMO easily finishing in the top 20. I could see that happening right now.
Another question that we have from the chat. Should I move Chris Olave for a box of sticks? This is hard for me. Okay, I owned Olave last year and I swore him off. I believe I traded him and then swore him off. The problem is I think that Rashid Shaheed is the number 1 guy there now. And I think Rashid Shaheed has top 12 receiver possibilities for
Really?
I do. I don't think that I would trade Olave for a bag of sticks because I think he still does have value. I think you've got to wait and see for another week on Chris Olave because that New Orleans offense was completely skewed in week 1. I don't think the New Orleans Saints offense is good enough to put up 49 points a week. It was the Carolina Panthers who are dog water. I think you've got to wait and see on Chris Olave because he's a really good receiver. I just don't know where his role is. New Orleans was a team that struggled with offensive identity last year. I think that could be the same case this year. I don't know. That one you've got that Chris Olave right now for me is a wait and see. If you can get a guy that you're really in love with for Chris Olave, then I would make the move. But I wouldn't give him away for a box of sticks at this point.
Rashid Shaheed is just that guy that goes deep and catches a couple balls.
Yeah,
all he is.
I wouldn't read
That's
too
all
much.
he is.
Again,
I mean, basically, and I don't want to sound like an asshole here, but he's James Williams. He's the same thing.
that's a good comparison.
He's the same thing.
There's not enough data to say
He's only
going to
get
top
fucking
10. I'm sorry.
What does he get? 3-4 targets a game?
Because Olave's target share last year was like close to 30%. And again, it was another
Yes.
guy that didn't matter who was throwing him the ball. He was making plays. The only reason why he wouldn't evolve this year is if he doesn't get the targets. That's the only reason he wouldn't step
Right.
forward. So I wouldn't give up on Olave. I think he's a good receiver. And if Derek Carr plays well, not only would I not give up on Olave, but I think that's very good news for Olave. And Derek Carr played well the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
he's nice.
Derek Carr played really well. Actually, I wanted to talk about this because Derek Carr is currently, if I'm reading this correctly, he's currently quarterback 6. Everybody was ready to swear off Derek Carr before this year started.
Yeah, he was rough last year. He was rough last year. He was rough the year before.
Again, it was the Carolina Panthers, right? The Saints go into Dallas this week, okay? But when you have a quarterback who puts up a 24-point week and finishes number 6, you've kind of got to give it a look. Right now, where are we at on Derek Carr after week 1? If you're a Jordan Love owner, are you picking up Derek Carr?
I think it's a great recipe to start with the Panthers week 1. That's
think
what,
it is,
That's
too.
what I think of Derek Carr. Again, I'm not overly reliant on the data from week 1 until I see trends. You need 2 data points to make trends. I'm Derek Carr. I'm circling him this week. I'm excited to see him this week.
Week one is hard to assess because what happens is you got guys that come in flat, Jared Goff, and there's a bunch of other ones too. Now, look how bad Deshaun Watson looked. I mean, it's Daniel Jones. I mean, you can't go by 1 week. At least you got to see how they come back this week. And if you start to see the same trends, then it's time to think about ditching these guys and getting somebody else.
Baker Mayfield.
Solid.
I want to talk about Baker
He was
Mayfield.
fucking solid last week.
Prior to this week, Baker Mayfield was only owned in 33% of leagues. He is quarterback 2 right now. He is coming off of a 32.5-point week. That he comes to Detroit now this week. Okay? Again, I'm going off of if you're the Jordan Love owner. And Baker Mayfield's available in your
You
league.
got to get him. Got to get him.
Even going in against Detroit this week.
Well, he's going to be on your little reserve spot. So you got to get somebody.
Is there any
Sam
chance?
Darnold.
Is there any chance that Baker Mayfield could continue? Obviously not a 32.5-point week, but Baker Mayfield could be a top 7 quarterback option going forward.
Top 7, no.
I think he might be able to hit top 15, top 10.
Top 15, top 12, yeah.
Maybe top, yeah.
He's got Mike Evans.
15, 12.
He's got Mike Evans, and Baker picked off right where he was last year. Now, he didn't do shit against Detroit ×2 last year. Baker wasn't really he was good in the playoff game. I take that back. He was
Yeah,
good in
he
the playoff
was good
game.
in the playoff.
One would argue that the Lions secondary, especially in the second half on Sunday, was suspect. It was extremely suspect. So again, keeping an eye on it.
I don't really agree with that they were suspect. The problem was this. The game plan that they had come out with was to do that short, intermediate routes, little 3 and 4 step drops, and get the ball out. And that's what Stafford was doing.
Let me ask
that's
you
the
a
only
question.
thing that kept them upright.
I agree. That's also what mitigated the Lions' pass rush. That being said, do you trust Terrion Arnold versus Mike Evans this week,
No.
or Carlton Davis
I
versus
don't
Mike
think-
Evans
no,
this week?
Absolutely
I don't
not
think.
Carlton
Listen,
Davis.
either one of those guys are going to struggle with him.
Yeah.
Davis will do a little better job because he's been in the league longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he should be the one. Here's the thing: who's going to cover Godwin?
And I was just gonna say,
Because it won't be Mike Evans that'll destroy you.
And they don't
'cause You
shadow.
can roll a safety his way.
and they don't shadow, so someone will be on one side of the field, someone will be on the
Right.
other. So it's gonna be mixed. Who's covering who? I don't trust either of the Lions corners against Mike Evans, and I certainly don't trust him against Godwin if it's the lesser of the two corners. I think it's a great passing matchup for Baker. I think it's a really good passing
I do
matchup.
too. I think.
But his protection's got to hold up. Like, a lot goes into it. And the Lions' D-line was very good in both of those games last year. It was they were defensive battles when they played the Bucs twice. So
well,
I think it's a
they're
great
gonna
matchup
They're going
this
to have to
week.
battle this week.
Yeah,
to win
for
this
sure.
game. I mean,
For sure.
they're a 7-point favorite right now.
That's a lot of points.
Yeah,
for
The
a
Lions
for a
are.
playoff
That's
team.
a lot of points to
That's
get.
a lot of points.
I want to jump over to the running back position. A couple surprises from this weekend. One of which was the Chargers' backfield. There's Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins there. Edwards had 11 carries. Dobbins had 10. J.K. Dobbins was the beneficiary. He had 21 fantasy points. He is currently running back 4. One, what do we make of that? 2, who's going to be the guy from there? And 3, do you trust either of them going forward?
The Dobbins thing scares me. We know he has the talent to put the big numbers up. The problem is, can he stay healthy? That's the problem.
Between the two of them,
I would. Dobbins is obviously better than he is.
so you think Dobbins is the guy compared to Gus Edwards?
I do. But his problem is he can't stay healthy. Guy's never been healthy.
So
in 5 years, he's missed 4. I mean, come on, dude.
The Chargers have Carolina this week, and that's why this is appealing to a lot
I
of
think
people.
they'll ass punch Carolina, especially without they lost their defensive tackle this week.
Derek Brown.
R.I.P.
Yeah. R.I.P.
R.I.D.P.
I had to.
And you took him high.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. He was the first defensive tackle off the board. You took him 1 pick before I took DeForest Buckner.
Dude, he's the highest rated defensive tackle in football.
Let me get my take on the Chargers running back situation.
Please.
I wouldn't. If I'm a Chargers fan, I'm really excited about the Chargers running back situation. But if I'm trying to pin it down from a fantasy perspective, I'm not, because it's Jim Harbaugh, and even going back to San Francisco, like, he's always platoon running backs. He just believes that that's how the game should be played, and it's similar to John Harbaugh. Like, they just believe in a stable of backs. So it's gonna be.
He's sort of like Bill Belichick in that sense.
Yeah.
He doesn't just have one guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna drive you crazy and do a combination of different guys in there.
And I doubt Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh even know when they're on the field which guy they're going to pick to hand the ball off to. I doubt they ever even knew. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just a spur of the moment how they're feeling, who they're going to run. I've always thought, for the record, that J.K. Dobbins is extremely talented, and he brings a lot to a fantasy perspective because he's a pass catcher. He can catch balls. At least he did at Ohio State. He was very good at that at Ohio State. But I wouldn't get too hung up if I own either of these guys unless someone gets injured. Or maybe, again, it's one game's worth of data. Can't stress that enough. Maybe there'll be a second data point to say, well, this is what the targets are. This is who's getting more carries, and then you could read into it a little bit more. I don't think we know enough right now to do that, though.
Okay, let's talk about the Miami running back situation. So Raheem Mostert is officially out for this week, which is bad for Devon Achane owners because he is questionable. Mike McDaniel came out today and said that
He's a game time decision.
he's a
That's what he
game
said.
correct game time decision. He did practice in a limited way today. The other running backs on Miami's roster: Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. Have we heard anything about Achane that leads you to believe one way or the other if he's going to play or not?
He practiced today.
He practiced.
Limited.
The Mostert being out thing gives me a lot of hope that Achane's going to be able to go. It's a divisional game. It's against
I
Buffalo.
think you'll see a combination of him and Jeff Wilson.
If you are an Achane owner, are you picking up Jeff Wilson as an insurance policy right now?
No.
You're not.
No.
You're rolling the dice.
What are you gonna waste a pick like that for?
I'm just saying.
Listen, they're gonna throw the fucking football all over the field, and then Achane's gonna catch passes. So I mean, you probably won't see him run the ball as much. I think they'll use him in like
Passing down.
screens and shit like that. Yeah.
Another running back I wanted to talk about real quick here. Jamal Williams. Currently RB19. He scored 14.8 points this week in half-point PPR leagues.
Splitting carries with Kamara.
He took 11 carries away from Kamara.
Yeah.
He's only owned in, I read this right, 7% of leagues.
Okay.
Do we at all have any sort of interest in Jamal Williams right now? We do recall a few years ago he was the touchdown king. What thoughts on Jamal Williams as a possible ad?
You just said it yourself. He's owned 7% of the leagues. I mean, who's going to fucking waste a pick on him? I mean,
But you have to remember, we're discussing this from the standpoint.
yeah, as a fantasy standpoint, if you got somebody that's fucking hurt and you need a guy on your
think
roster,
Jamal Williams is a good pickup.
yeah, you can pick him up.
I think Jamal Williams is a good pickup.
But he's not going to outcarry Kamara.
No, but he could be.
No.
I mean, shit. If Jamal Williams is a guy who can get you
Goal line guy.
goal line guy who can get you 10 points a week in a filler situation,
Yep.
I have absolutely no
That's what James Conner's lived on for how long now?
forever.
For the last 5 years. He's a
100%.
fucking goal line guy. That's where you get points from.
One position that I wanted to talk about was tight end. Do you know who the number one tight end is at this moment?
Isaiah Likely.
Isaiah Likely.
It is Mr. Isaiah Likely, who prior to this week was only rostered in 9% of leagues. That jumped up to 80. He put up 22 points.
And
this
I
week.
bet you whoever had him in our league, he was on the bench.
Probably. He
Yeah.
had 9 receptions for 111 yards and a touchdown. It seems like there may have been a changing of the guard in the tight end position. in Baltimore.
I don't know about that.
You're not buying into that.
If you're
yet.
going by one game, I'm not going by one game. Mark Andrews is too talented and too fucking good for them to just say, nah, fuck it.
Because if you don't think Mark Andrews is cutting the mustard anymore, what you do is you make your little phone call to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, you guys want Mark Andrews? and you get some fucking collateral for him, and you ship him out, and you keep going with Likely. He's younger than Andrews. I get it. I
Doesn't
fucking
have an
get
injury
it.
history like Andrews.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And then you can send him to Tampa and let Baker throw to him like he did in college.
then where are we at on Mark Andrews?
Not
Where does that leave us on? Is Mark Andrews still a top 4 tight end?
He was on the field a
think
lot.
so.
He was on the field a lot. I'm not worried. I totally believe that the Chiefs, again, it's a game plan thing. It could change week to week. I
Bar
think,
was going to the guy that was open.
who's got better linebackers than the Chiefs? Maybe the Niners. You'll know them. I don't know. Niners, maybe the Jets.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll tell you, he's got some really good linebackers that I was impressed with. Was the Rams.
the Rams have good linebackers.
That
Seattle.
Jay Reader's a monster.
Seattle's got good linebackers. There aren't a lot of teams that have better linebackers than the Chiefs.
Cowboys.
And I think the Chiefs, part of their game plan is we're not going to let Mark Andrews beat us. And you know who they can simulate and practice with Mark Andrews? Travis Kelce.
Yep.
So I'm not reading crazy into it and overreacting after 1 week. Now talk to me in October, because if this is still what's going on in October, I'll either think that there was a changing of the guard or Mark Andrews is still a little bit injured. But supposedly he's pretty healthy right now, so I'm not buying into it yet.
So David Njoku is not playing this week. He is officially out.
Yeah, he got ass hammered. He'll be lucky to be back in a couple weeks.
If you are a David Njoku owner, is there anybody out there that you can pick up and you feel halfway decent about playing this week?
Give me some names.
Or somebody that you think could have Noah Gray.
Noah Gray is somehow a red zone target for Mahomes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's got to be a better guy than Noah Gray because there's boomer bust there.
Zach Ertz,
Zach Ertz, maybe.
coming off of a 4-point week.
He got
Hey,
targets.
Daniels was smart for hitting him with the passes. I mean, he's getting targeted.
Austin Hooper, who is one of the highest rated Patriots according to PPF this week.
Yeah.
Is there any guys out there that we feel? What about Foster Morneau? Or was he
Okay.
just a beneficiary of
Okay.
the Saints going off?
The Saints have been high on Foster Moreau for a long time, and it goes back to Sean Payton, and then he had the cancer scare, right? And then
Yep.
there was this deal where he went to Denver, and then the Saints matched his offer sheet. There's a reason they did that. And again, same drill. Like that's a guy I could see emerging, which he did on. He had a
had
touchdown,
Dewan
right?
Johnson's-
He had one touchdown.
He this week he had, I believe, it was 4 receptions for 43 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean,
12 points.
that's a guy I could see Derek Carr leaning on. So the two tight ends caught touchdowns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I could see Foster Moreau emerging at some point.
He is questionable right now he's in the concussion protocol, but it is likely that he's going to play this week.
Is it Isaiah likely that he plays this week?
It's Isaiah likely that he plays this week. The only thing that I'm not sold on is the fact that they play Dallas. Like we got to see
No,
regression.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, you don't worry about anything.
Tight ends.
Cleveland Browns did great this week, didn't they?
I don't want to talk about it.
Anyways,
Fucking Tug and Rub sucks, dude. He fucking sucks. If I was them, dude, I would cut him, play whoever the backup is for the rest of the year, and move on from this fucking clown. It's a fucking joke. Pay this guy $90 million. He's fucking absolute dog shit. Absolute fucking dog.
He has other priorities.
Whatever.
other priorities.
Fucking sucks. He's like you. Other priorities.
Mine aren't getting a massage. Tug and
You wish you could get a massage. You need to call that girl and tell her to give you one.
Can we talk to Sean Watson?
Let's
Yeah.
talk to Sean Watson.
Yeah.
We talk to Sean Watson.
Let's talk to Sean
You trust
fucking
him?
Watson.
Mari Cooper doesn't even trust him.
Because I feel like this is taking a major turn. And I read that text from my buddy in Cleveland the other day. And I feel like this is a very underrated story right now because I think that Cleveland having a quarterback is the difference between them being like a top 4 team in the AFC or not.
I agree.
And that was the case last year. They were probably a top 4 team in the AFC last year.
With an old man, they got off the fucking
with a nobody at
couch.
quarterback. Bless you.
Thank you.
With a nobody at quarterback. And the fact that this is happening, like there's a thing with Browns fans right now. There's a narrative like, why the fuck did we get rid of Baker Mayfield only for this to happen? Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield, bless you.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Baker Mayfield is very serviceable. They moved on for him for the leash never even existed on him. And they moved on for him for no reason. And here we are, Deshaun Watson, like, I didn't watch. I was tailgating. I only saw highlights, but
I watched it. He was dog shit.
it had to have been bad.
He's dog shit.
It had to have been bad because he's got the pass catchers.
It was bad.
He's got a top 10 tight end. He's got Amari Cooper, who's one of those guys that doesn't matter who's throwing to him. He's got Jerry Jeudy now. The Browns have always had a good run game. What's your excuse? Dallas defense is good. What's your excuse? You need to be better than that. stat.
Dallas, they won because they had no consistency in offense, man. They just could not fucking sustain drives.
Dude, they're awful.
They're
were
garbage,
awful.
dude.
They
And
were
it,
awful.
you know what was bad? It's the quarterback play. That's what was fucking bad.
It's awful. He was awful.
He's fucking trash, dude.
If you're in Cleveland, I don't know where you go. Right now, I don't think that Deshaun Watson finishes out the year there. I don't.
No.
They
You got
don't have,
Jameis Winston there, man. give him.
listen,
see what
if
happens
your
for him.
option is 30-30, I would go with 30-30 and fucking dude, send him packing. Well, what are you wasting? What are you wasting all this time and assets on this guy when he can't play
It's
football
embarrassing
anymore?
at this
He can't read defenses.
It's embarrassing.
You know, he reminds me of Cam Newton when Cam Newton was washed up.
Can I ask you a question? Because I know you
That's
watched
a good,
that.
That's
game.
a good comparison.
You watched
No,
that
serious.
game.
That's a good
You
one.
watched that game and you watched it with a fine tooth comb. And you watched the Tampa Jacksonville game.
Yes.
This right now, as it stands, Cleveland's going to Jacksonville this week.
They're going to lose that game.
Thank you.
I got a feeling they're going to lose to Jacksonville. Because if Jacksonville runs the ball like they did last week against Tampa,
Yeah,
they're going to lose.
they're gonna lose.
They're going to fucking lose.
They're going to lose. Another
And
quarterback.
you're talking about a top 3 defense that looked good in the first 2 quarters, and then they just, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. It looked like they, you know what it reminded me of? If you remember Philadelphia when they went on their little 9-game streak and they won, and then shit started to get serious and they just fell apart, and it seemed like the coach lost his team. This is what it's looking like right now in Cleveland.
Someone said a part of Deshaun Watson died on those massage tables.
He did.
Well,
He spent all his
I
goo.
don't know about dying on the massage tables.
Spent all his goo.
You know,
Got no goo left in the
you got this so-called person that's come out and said that he molested her or whatever.
Yeah.
Assaulted her. I don't know why 4 fucking years
Are we going to
later-
go down the same conversation again for the 900th
all
time?
I'm saying is I don't know why it took this long for this person to come forward.
Regardless of if
When-
he's still
when
getting
she's seen-
jerked off or not.
Hold on. When she's seen
Regardless.
25 other people fucking come forward. Was she one of those 25?
No.
Oh, so she's different.
She's a new one.
Okay, she just waited 4 years.
Regardless of if he got still getting jerked off or not, he's awful at football.
He is not the same quarterback that was at the Texans.
Another quarterback situation I want to talk about. Mike Tomlin came out and said that they are preparing for Justin Fields to start this week against Denver.
What is the fucking story there? Why don't he just come out? and
Russell
tell
Wilson
everybody?
is still battling a calf
Russ is
injury.
banged up, but he actually practiced today limited. He practiced limited, so they're probably working him
Well,
back.
if he's fucking hurt, just put fucking that idiot Fields as the fucking starter for now until he's healthy. Why are we playing fucking ring around the rosies with these people?
What's your question? What's your question? Ask it. Go ahead.
Is there a situation where
Why is he in fucking uniform then? If he's inactive,
he was inactive.
Inactive.
He was inactive and fully suited. I said this on
fully
Monday.
suited up.
He's a weirdo.
He was fully
He is
suited
weird.
up and inactive. If Justin Fields did nothing to help Pittsburgh win that game on Sunday, but if Justin Fields keeps trotting out there,
I don't agree that. I don't agree with that totally. I don't.
Russell Wilson.
they had 6 field goals.
He's just a weirdo. He's the dude in high school that wanted to join the military and wear fatigues every day until he was able to join after they graduated. He's that guy. So he's just sitting there in uniform for no fucking reason. That's what I think.
If
No, I don't think.
Justin Fields can go 2-0,
No, I'm sick of the if shit. I'm sick of the if. The jury's out on Justin Fields and he ain't it.
The only way they're gonna win games is run the football and play defense
Yes,
like they did last
if
week.
they go 2-0, how do you pull him?
Absolutely, you pull. As soon as Russ is ready to go, you pull him.
Yeah, I agree. It's
So you don't think there's any part of this where Russ is ready to go?
no.
Isn't this why they threw him out of fucking
No.
Chicago?
There's a recent
You know
body of
what?
work.
Can I say this? How fucking stupid does Chicago look right now?
It's one game. I'm not giving up on one game.
Listen to me.
I think Caleb Williams.
Listen to me.
I don't think
Caleb
at
Williams doesn't look any better than fucking than.
It's
Justin
one.
Fields.
I literally read last week how the number 1 overall pick never does shit in his first game. It never happens.
I think this game is moved into a different area to where overall picks don't succeed. Young quarterbacks don't succeed. I don't agree with that in today's game because today's games, all the fucking rules and regulations are for the quarterback.
Okay.
So I don't believe that anymore.
I am going to play the other side of this coin. I think Caleb Williams is a must start in fantasy this week.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
fine.
Houston.
Oh,
The
wait.
Texans?
Hold on though. Roma Dunze, MCL sprain, and I think
Don't say another one.
yeah, Keenan Allen hasn't. He's on the injury report as well. You'll have to fact check me on that.
Okay.
So it's down to just DJ Moore right now.
And Darnell Mooney. Oh no, Darnell Mooney's not there anymore. My bad. I just had flashbacks. If he can get one of those two to play, Caleb Williams is a must start. I think he is going to come into full form against Houston. I think he's going to look really. I mean, Anthony Richardson looked like a fucking world beater this week. Anthony
'Cause he
Richardson
is
had a
one.
30-point week.
It's because he is a world beater.
I mean, I think Caleb Williams could have the same type of game. I
Real
really do.
I don't see that.
Real quick, going back to the Fields Wilson thing, I think that had Fields been the real deal, he would have been named the starter from the start, even though Russ was injured. I do think this is a genuine injury thing. And we have the body of work on Fields and Russ last year, and Russ's is still slightly better. If Fields was going to emerge, you would have saw it against Atlanta last week. So, hey, credit to him if he does it this week. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's still Russ's team to lose. It's just another all-around bad quarterback situation.
Bad quarter. That's an awful quarterback situation. The only quarterback situation that's worse is in the Giants. Is in New York. There were
Mike Valenti called him. It was so fucking funny today. Daniel Jones. He called somebody else the Black Daniel Jones, and I'm trying to think.
Tyrod?
Huh?
Tyrod?
No.
okay. Either
I
way.
can't remember who it was. Yeah, I started laughing because it was pretty funny.
So the one
No, I want to say it was Deshaun Watson.
you might yeah.
It was.
Okay. The one person that this affects, in my opinion, okay,
Malik Neighbors.
is Malik Neighbors. ADP 37. So more likely than not, you took him at the 3-4 turn. Okay, you took a very high draft pick on Malik Neighbors. He had a 9-point week this week. They are playing Washington this week. Okay.
And their secondary is dog shit.
Their secondary is dog shit. If you are the Malik Neighbors owner, is there any part of you that's trying to get out now?
No, you play him. You play him this week. Play him this week.
No, because Malik Neighbors should be that guy that bucks quarterbacks as well. He should be the guy that it doesn't matter who's throwing to him. And by the way, it's the same principle. Like, I'm not as high on Marvin Harrison as I am on Malik Neighbors. The same principle applies to Marvin Harrison. I think that's just a one-off. It's his first game, and I think he'd be really good.
Somebody asking Kyler Murray about Marvin Harrison.
It's not my job to
It's not
get
my
him
job to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the big fuck you.
As far as fantasy goes, I'm going to play the other side of the coin with Neighbors.
Okay.
I think that if you can trade him right now, you've got to try and get out of town because I don't see anybody being able to get him the ball enough in that offense to make him that bona fide. I mean, if you're taking him to 3-4 turn, he has to at least produce at wide receiver 2. Do you think
it's been one game? They were dog shit last week.
Yeah, but hold on.
got
With
punched
Daniel
in the
Jones,
mouth.
it's not one game.
They got
With Daniel
punched in the
Jones, we have everything we need to know. And everybody keeps waiting for it to get better, and it's not.
Before his injury last year, he was very.
Fucking subpar, dude.
No,
He was subpar at best.
serviceable.
He was not serviceable,
He was. You're wrong.
dude. Tommy DeVito came in and looked better than him.
He got fucking hurt, dude. What are you gonna do?
Tommy DeVito looked better than him before he got hurt.
Listen, Tommy Cutlets showed you what he is. He's fucking career
Dude,
backup
hold on.
dog shit.
If you are the New York Giants, I mean, when do you pull the plug on him? You've got to be right there.
So what? You gonna play fucking Tommy?
Yes.
I think everyone
This is dog shit.
everyone across the board of those touch and go quarterback situations, I think they all get a month. I think they all get until October because New York, the media is not going to let that go on for too long.
They're already on his fucking head.
In Cleveland, they're in it. They're a playoff team from last year, and on paper their roster's better, so they're not going to let it go on too long because, like you said, like. When do you realize Jameis Winston's give him a shot at least to see what happens? The fans are already clamoring.
I mean, from what you've seen of Deshaun Watson between last year and what you've seen Sunday, what kind of assessment do you have from him? Now he hasn't got no injury to fucking talk about here. It's not like he was fucking hurt.
I'll make
He
one
missed
excuse.
12 games because he's an asshole.
I'll make one excuse for him, but again, it instantly goes out the window if he has a bad performance next week. I'll make one excuse. It was Dallas's defense, which is a decent defense.
Yeah, they're good.
That's the only thing I could think of. So if it's 2 weeks in a row, and who does Cleveland have this week?
Hold on. They are playing
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Correct.
That's a good way to get. It's a good way to get on track. That's a good way.
I don't know if it is.
Jacksonville gave up. I mean, didn't both of those guys have? I mean, I know Tyreek Hill had one, but didn't someone else have one there? Didn't Waddle have a big game last week as well?
Everybody in Miami had a big game last week outside of their defense. Waddle.
No, the whole first
Waddle
half was
put up
dog
14
shit.
fantasy points. Yeah, he was 5 for 109 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
No, he did not have a touchdown. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So that's a secondary and a defense that you hypothetically on paper can try and shred. Again, I'm looking for 2 data points. Right now, Deshaun Watson's bad. I'm totally wrong on this, but who knows? If he rebounds next week, I'll feel a lot better. And then they have the Giants the week after that. It's got to.
Yeah, he might get a win there. He should get fucking A. The Giants, to me, are the worst team in football. I want to talk about another wide receiver, and that's Jaden Reed. Currently finished the week as wide receiver 1.
This is the guy I'm worried about.
But more likely than not, Malik Willis is going to be the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers this week. I think we can all agree that Jaden Reed is not a consensus top 5 wide receiver this year.
I think he could
Hold
be.
on. With Jordan Love.
I think he could be.
With Jordan Love, he could easily be wide receiver 1 there and then a top 15 play. Like he could
Top 15, I'm good with. I will say that I think he finishes the year as a top 15. Well, Jordan Love is out and you have Malik Willis at the helm. Is he playable?
Yeah, because he's probably pass catching option 1. And on top of that, look where a lot of his damage was done last week. It was end arounds and plays out of the backfield. So they could find a way to scheme him open. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the pass game. So, I mean, is he a bona fide wide receiver 1? No, but in a deeper league or a flex play like wide receiver 3, yeah. I mean, he doesn't matter. Jaden Reed was always good. He had who was Michigan State's quarterback 2 years ago?
Oh God, I have no idea.
He had shit thrown him in East Lansing, and he was really good when he was in East Lansing.
Okay,
So,
a follow up on this. Well, Jordan Love is out. Is there any other Green Bay receiving option that you trust?
the tight ends, maybe Tucker Kraft.
Christian Watson, owned in 85% of leagues.
I need to see more from Christian Watson. Right now, no.
I don't even think he's her first target.
Christian Watson could be great because what he brings to the table is he's the X, so he's the tall receiver. So in the fuck it, I'm going to throw the ball up downfield type of situation, he might be the guy that's open. So maybe, because you might see a lot of that from Malik Willis, a lot of throwing on the run, throwing off their back foot, just praying someone's open downfield like Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins 3 or 4 years ago. I could see that scenario. So Christian Watson kind of stands out, but no, I don't love it.
Dobbs unplayable. Dobbs and Wicks.
Yeah, Dobbs and Wicks, I'm not overly reliant.
They're unplayable until Jordan Love comes back. I think you got to reevaluate everything.
Well, no, you need to see one game from Malik Willis and see what their plan is and see what's going on.
True. Another name I wanted to discuss briefly is Alec Pierce. 3 for 125 and a touchdown this week. Currently wide receiver 9. He was added in 19% of leagues last night. Do we like him? Is he worth a flyer? Is he worth the stash?
Is he better than fucking Michael Pittman?
No.
You don't think he's worth a stash?
Might be worth a stash. Don't love him. Let me tell you why. No receiver during week 1 created more separation. No receiver in the league, and he doesn't have the stats to show for it, but it's a trend, and I'm looking for trends to see if this happens the second week. No receiver created more separation than Adonai Mitchell. So I think he's on the brink of exploding. I'm trying to go after him in as many leagues I can that he's available. Number 2, Pittman's number 1 option. And then number 3, Josh Downs is out right now.
Yeah.
And Josh Downs will come back. I still think Alec Pierce is outstanding, and he's gonna have a great season, and he's a perfect complement in that offense. I don't think he has that crazy wide receiver 1 upside or wide receiver 9 upside to maintain the rest of the year. But I do like Alec Pierce, and he's a guy that you could totally stash. But I think he capitalized with
missed
injuries.
him on 2 wide open passes.
Yeah.
Wide open.
Scrolling through this, who outside of obviously, I think Jaden Reed surprised everybody this week. Who is your biggest surprise of the week at the wide receiver position? I have one, if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
Mine was Stephon Diggs. Because there was a part of me that really thought he was going to play that number 3 role there and kind of fall into that. He finished the week with 19 fantasy points.
Yep. It's a touchdown.
Wide receiver 12. Do we think he finishes in that offense? Joe Mixon had a big week. In that offense,
Tank
can
Dell did.
Diggs... Huh?
Tank Dell didn't have a big week this week.
Correct. But
So basically,
We have to-
he's eating some of those targets.
if you're trying to figure out the pecking order there, because they're receiver heavy, do we think Stephon Diggs finishes the year top 15?
So his stat again, need a second week's body's worth of work so I can know for certain. I think his stats are a little skewed from a where they finish perspective because it was touchdown dependent. He had 2 touchdowns, right?
Nico Collins finished right behind him with 15.
And Nico Collins had no touchdowns, but over 100 yards and 7 receptions or something like
Right.
that. Whereas Diggs had 2 touchdowns and 33 yards. So if he's touchdown dependent, I mean, good for him on the touchdowns because he wasn't getting those the back half of the year in Buffalo. If he's touchdown dependent in a red zone play, yeah, but I think it's too early to say. He's a good surprise.
The problem with Diggs is when it comes playoff time, he disappears. That's the problem.
He is a
Because
good
he was with
surprise.
Buffalo.
My wide receiver surprise from week 1, and not that I am surprised. I'm surprised that it's happening this quick. Is Brian Thomas?
Yeah.
Quick.
I think he's already. He's not option 1, but he's a very
will be,
comfortable
too.
safety valve for Trevor Lawrence. Because I still think Christian Kirk is option 1, but. I mean, that was his red zone look was to Brian Thomas, and it was a hell of a play that Brian Thomas made, and he's a freak. So I think Brian Thomas is someone that stands out to me, and that's a trend. Like, there's guys that popped off that I'm looking to see if it continues. Like, of course, we know Mike Evans is going to finish somewhere in the top 15, but, like, is he going to be that good every week? J-Mo, same drill. Xavier Worthy, is that going to, like, eventually they're going to get Hollywood Brown back. How does that carve into his targets?
That's one that I like. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be. I think Xavier Worthy finishes your top 15.
It's the same principle as Jaden Reed and his J-Mo. What's nice about Xavier Worthy is they're going to give him end arounds and plays out of the backfield, and that's gonna help his usage. That's why Xavier Worthy stands out to me. Even though Rashee Rice was also incredible on Thursday night,
He had a great game.
there's definitely trends that I need to look a little bit further into. But talk to me next week. Like Lab McConkey, is Lab McConkey slowly going to evolve into why? Like, great start.
I think he's for real.
He's
He
good.
runs really good routes.
He's really good.
Crisp. He's fucking crisp. He did that in college, too.
He's White Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
I have one that's interesting because it's a surprise kind of on the other side. It's Justin Jefferson. Currently, right now, he's wide receiver 20 after 1 week. Okay, I know it's Justin Jefferson. They're going into Frisco this week. He was only targeted 6 times last week. He had 4 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. Are we at all worried that Minnesota is going to rely on the run game and the defense so much that Justin Jefferson does not have that top 3 wide receiver year.
Addison, is he
ADP
out?
6.
I
No.
know he's hurt. Is he out?
No, he played.
No, he played. He's fine.
Okay.
I wouldn't fret about Justin Jefferson.
I wouldn't either.
Even against San Francisco this week,
Well,
you guys have
here's
no
the
worries.
thing. Everybody's saying that right now. He comes out against Frisco. He might just light them up. You never know.
He very well could.
You never know.
On the
I
other,
get it. It's Sam Darnold. I fucking get it. He's serviceable, and he'll win some fucking ball games and lose some ball games.
I wouldn't worry about Justin Jefferson at all.
I wouldn't either.
He's a good player. I thought he looked good. I know it was the Giants, but I thought he looked good on Sunday. And I don't care if it's the Niners. Like this is a guy that's gonna find a way to get open. And if the ball comes to him properly, it's not gonna make me worry at all. I have zero concerns about Justin Jefferson.
anybody else you guys want to bring up?
We drafted Justin Jefferson this year. No, I didn't draft him in any leagues, but we drafted Justin Jefferson this year knowing that he had a par or subpar quarterback throwing to him, and he still looked good. The quarterback looked good on Sunday, and Justin Jefferson looked good on Sunday in limited snaps. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Anybody else you guys want to bring up before we end?
Did we go over the Dolphins situation? I know we mentioned it briefly. Real quick on the Dolphins, I'll bet Achane plays. If he doesn't, it seems like it's Jeff Wilson. Jalen Wright was drafted in most of my leagues, and he was considered like one of the best fits. So I think Mostert being out is really good news for Jalen Wright. I wouldn't be shocked if they just hold Achane out just to see what they have in Jalen Wright. I think they
could
should
be.
do that. But right now it seems like Achane's going to play. Apparently he looked good in practice. He was limited in practice, but he looked good in practice. And I guess it's a true game time decision. It's like one of those. We'll see how it feels after warm-ups and how it feels with the tape.
But they're a team that can not really have to run the football.
The same
and still
reason
be able to be
it's the same
dangerous.
same offense as the 49ers, and it's the same
Right.
reason that it's never mattered for whoever's at running back for Kyle Shanahan. It will never matter for whoever's at running back for Mike McDaniels, and that includes Achane or Mostert or whatever. I think they're always going to be golden. We have one last question in the chat. Jordan Mason or Aaron Jones for running back this weekend? Aaron Jones has who? Dallas?
I don't.
No, I'm sorry. Aaron Jones is playing the Niners,
Right.
and Jordan Mason is wait, are they playing against each other? They're playing each other?
I thought Aaron Jones had a really nice week last week. He kind of surprised me a little bit. God,
You got to go with Mason.
you got to go with the hot hand right
You got to
now.
go with Mason. That offensive line's really solid.
You got to go with
them.
you got to go with the hot hand behind the better offensive line
Yep.
and against the worst defense. So I right now I'm going to say Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason.
I agree.
Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason.
See you over there
All right,
picking
one more
people
thing
up and
before
dropping
we-
people in the middle.
I did the Jeff Wilson and drop Tyrone Tracy just in case Achane decides. Not to
Anyway,
play.
Tariq Hill video. You do have to comment about that.
Go ahead.
He's an asshole.
Do I have a comment?
Yeah.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
Want to hear what I have to say? I thought the initial.
Can I 1 second, real quick. He did a press conference today. I don't know if you saw that. You probably
No, I
did
didn't.
not. He did a press conference today saying that he could have handled the situation better and he did not handle it correctly and he should have left the window down. But the ass beating that he received was not warranted.
that I'm going to tell you right now. I seen him go by in his fucking car in the video, on the body cam video, and he was ripping. And it took that guy was doing at least 90 trying to catch up to him. And as initially they go up to the car, they asked him to roll, he knocked on the window to roll it down. And he said, "Don't knock on my window," about 4 times. At that point, he should have been ripped out of the car and got his ass beat, in my opinion. That is absolute dog shit. The windows are so dark. You don't know what he's got in the car. You don't know who it is. That is one of the most dangerous situations that police officers are put in, and that's traffic stops.
I agree with you, but
Shut up.
in the video they
Let me
did
finish.
say
Let me
Tyreek
finish.
once they walked up to the car.
Let me finish, dumbass.
They knew who it was.
They knew
after-
who it was.
They knew who it was in the car before they got to the car.
Yeah.
I don't
You,
care.
you hear them.
They
in
knew
I don't
who
the
it
care.
was.
Video.
He's already fucking broke the law. At what point does that fucking matter? I don't give a fuck who he is.
No,
How about
that's
that?
why I say I'm agreeing with you.
So
but I'm just
at
saying
this
it did not.
point, as he's going through, and the one guy was actually pretty fucking good to him. The other guy was so fucking irritated with it, and I understand why. After he rolled the fucking window back up, he's lucky. I know guys that would have ripped him out of that car and fucking absolutely obliterated him. And you know what? Deservedly so. When you start acting like a dickhead, that's what you fucking get. You're not there to plead your fucking case. You're not there to say, well, I'm this. Do you know who I am? Fuck you with that. Okay? You broke the fucking law, own up to it. And stop being a cocksucker. And then this little thing in the end zone, that's just a big fuck you to them.
Yeah, it was.
Good. He got everything he deserved.
was
You know
pretty
what?
funny. I mean-
You know what? He didn't. Because if that was anybody else, their car would have been impounded and they would have been fucking in jail and he'd have missed that fucking game if he was anybody else. So they gave him the benefit of the doubt there. And for them to suspend that officer is absolute dog shit. Horse shit and dog shit.
Come on.
Fuck that, dude.
You can't come
Fuck
out and
that.
say that you're
Fuck
sorry that he
Fuck
didn't
that.
handle
Nobody
the
cares who he is.
situation
If that was
correctly,
you,
and
you
then
would be
ask for
sitting
the
in jail
officer to
still.
get fired.
If that was you, you'd be sitting in jail still.
Get out. You're out of control.
You can't.
I'm not out of control. I'm right.
Dude.
I'm fucking right. Listen to me. Any brother driving down fucking 8 Mile, if that had happened to him, he'd have been handcuffed, hogtied, and taken to fucking jail. Period. Doesn't matter who the fuck you are. So I don't want to hear that shit. Listen, these guys all think they're above the law. And guess what? When you do stupid shit like that, you get what you deserve. Play stupid games, get stupid prizes.
It was completely unwarranted. Completely without question.
Absolutely warranted.
Completely unwarranted.
Yeah.
Completely. Was he a dick
That's
for
your
roll-
opinion. I'm not
he-
liberal.
I'm not either. But was he a dick for rolling up the window on the guy? Of course. The guy.
He's
Yeah.
not wrong though. If anybody else would have done that, that
Thank
window
you.
would have been smashed
Thank you.
in. They would have been
They'd have
pulled out of
smashed
the
your fucking window,
car.
ripped you out of
Guys.
the car, and you would be taken off
Evidently,
to
you
jail.
haven't been pulled over enough. That's all I'm going to say. Evidently, you haven't been pulled over enough.
Who?
At either of you.
Yeah, anyway.
What?
Okay.
I've never been dragged out of the fucking car.
You never been ripped out of the car in your
Absolutely
life? You
not.
need to be ripped out of your fucking car. That's the
saying.
problem.
Just saying. I wouldn't have rolled up the window on the cop. But at the end of the day.
No, because
At the end of the
hold
day.
on,
At the
hold
end
on.
of the day.
Let me finish.
I don't even get to talk.
Let me finish.
I'd let you finish 5 times.
Hold on. Why weren't you taken to jail? Why?
I kept my window down.
Because you rolled the window down.
I took
And-
my ticket and walked and left with my tail
Shut your
between my
mouth.
legs.
Shut
You're
your
exactly
mouth.
right.
And that's it.
But if I could speak, was he a dick for rolling the window up on the guy?
Yes.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Okay?
Did he deserve
But
to get that window busted and dragged out of his car?
Absolutely not.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Stop.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
No,
This
that-
is
I mean,
why
that
you want to know
never-
why the cops gone today? Because anybody who uses 1 fucking ounce of common sense, okay, 1 ounce of common sense, yes, the stadium's in the background.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
At
but you're on a high horse. You're on a
but
high
after
horse.
this point, it's irrelevant. I don't give a fuck where the stadium's at. He's breaking the fucking law. You have to abide by the
Right.
fucking law.
He pulled over the car. He pulled over the car.
Yeah, after
That
he
cop-
fucking hit the lights and had to do 90 to catch
the
him.
fact that breaking the law is not in question. Breaking the law is not in question. The cop got a hard on because the football player rolled up the window on him. So he dragged him out of the motherfucking car. Okay?
Exactly.
Tyreek Hill
Deservedly so.
in any way, shape, or form was not a threat to that officer. Period. Period. And he acted like a fucking dick. They both acted like dicks.
No.
That's it.
That's not true.
Absolutely it is.
I agree with that.
And how do you
That
have
cop
any,
in
how
no
do you
way,
have
shape,
any
or
right?
form.
How do you have any right as a citizen to fucking disrespect the police officers when they're
People do it
pulling
every
you over-
day.
when they're pulling you over for breaking the law?
People do it every day.
Exactly, and they look totally fucking stupid when they get ripped out of a car. Then they wonder why they get ripped out of a car and fucking laying on the ground.
Did he
Then
look-
they wonder why.
Did he look stupid? Absolutely. Tyreek Hill looks like an asshole.
He is an asshole.
But the cop looks like a fucking asshole now
That's
too.
untrue. I don't
not
agree with that. Those guys
Not
have a hard fucking job. And if you had to do it, if that was you, and you're a police officer, and this guy's breaking the fucking law.
It doesn't have to
and
do
he
with breaking
just-
the law. You
Oh,
keep
yeah.
taking it back to that. Everybody knows he
that's-
broke the
that's
law.
what it has
but
to
we're not
do with.
debating the fact that he broke the law.
That's
No, we're not.
the reason why he was dragged out of his fucking car.
No, he wasn't. He was dragged out of the car because he rolled up the window on the cop and stepped on the cop's dick. That's why he got dragged out of the car.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
That-
Yes, it is.
No, it's
It
not.
is without question true.
No, it's not.
Because if it would have been, if he wouldn't have rolled up the window on him, he would have handed him a ticket for reckless driving and walked away. He was not dragged out of the car for reckless driving. He was dragged out of the car because he stepped on the cop's dick and rolled up the fucking window on him.
Didn't comply with his
Bullshit.
He
Bullshit.
did not comply.
And
with
the
his
cops,
orders.
the cop
He told him to
story,
roll the window down 4 fucking times.
the cop story,
and then he rolls it back up.
the cop story about how I didn't know what was in the car. I was scared for my safety. You have an NFL player pulling into a game at a fucking stadium. Grow up. If you're that nervous,
Does he got a
if you're
CPL?
that nervous,
Does he own a gun?
He doesn't own a gun. He
How do you
doesn't
know
have a
that?
CPL
How do you know that?
because that's what he came out and said.
So
he
you
was
don't know
asked
what
about
he's
it.
got in the car.
You stop and think. Stop and think and use logic. Because that was not logical. You think Tyreek Hill's gonna pull a gun on a cop in front of the fucking stadium on his way to a game?
You never know.
At the end of the day,
never
common
know.
sense has to prevail,
I don't-
and that
Listen,
cop
these guys
didn't
get
use it.
shot every day.
Period.
You never
I don't
know.
think
Not
they
by
were-
Tyreek Hill pulling into a game.
I don't think there was a gun in the car, and I certainly don't think there was a condom in the car.
There definitely was no condom in the car.
Sorry, I had to get that in there.
Well, I don't know. Ask Leon if he carries one.
Anyways, is there anything else fantasy wise to add?
No.
One
Oh,
thing.
this is fun.
One thing I can add. Tyreek Hill's gonna have a great week in fantasy.
Whatever.
Thank you so much for listening to.
He's a fucking scumbag. He's a scumbag. 3 kids at the same time.
He beats women.
Scumbag.
He beats women.
Fucking
Should
scumbag.
Tyreek make it his way from behind Zolo over to the wall
Behind Uncle Sam. Should we put
now?
you want Tariq behind you? Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. Make sure to follow our socials, Instagram and Twitter at Tip Balls, TikTok at Tip Balls Podcast. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe so you get notified when we go live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, sometime around 5. And join us in the comments because shows like today, Wednesday's Fantasy Frenzy, are going to be exclusively where we answer all of your questions in the comments. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back on Friday with the picks of the week.